right, so we're going to officially, I think we can officially start the session. And so Ilona has graciously agreed to join us to get into a little bit more detail. And the session is entitled Wearable Enhanced Learning, Striking a Balance Between the Drive for Innovation and Meeting the Needs of Individuals. And so this is just a really nice opportunity, and nice to have some of our attendees here joining us. So Ilona, I can turn it over to you, and then we can kind of talk about how to best work with the group that we have.
Okay, so very happy to run this workshop. We will see, it can be a nice small workshop too. Sometimes it's even nicer if you have a small group, you can work intensively on something. So I'm actually going to share my screen and the idea for the workshop, and then we can decide if we want to continue like this, I think. Yeah, so the idea for the workshop is, I don't know if the two, Alyssa and Carla, if you actually were, if you attended the keynote. If yes, I can skip the introduction, because the idea of the workshop is designing a wearable enhanced learning experience for social impact. Basically, that's the idea. Okay, Carla attended, so I could really skip the introduction, because I was not sure if the same audience will be at the keynote and at the workshop. So I would just introduce this, what is wearable enhanced learning, but we talked about this in the keynote, and the different types of wearables from the sports and fitness, infotainment, medical field, the different sensors and gadgets we can use. And then I just wanted to let you know that in our opening chapter in the book, we kind of analyzed different drivers for wearable enhanced learning, and we categorize them into social technological drivers and cognitive motivational drivers. So we basically asked the question, why would people use wearables for learning at all? And some of the points under social technological label are just the increase in use of media, consumer tech in general, also battery size and life that contributes to or supports other types of scenarios when you would maybe need to use the gadget for a longer time. The networked connectivity, the availability of different sensors that can be used, for instance, to produce new wearable devices or things you can put on your body, and also the Internet of Things that enables us to connect the wearables to other smart objects. And on the cognitive motivational level, people often perceive, or more often perceive, that those wearable devices are useful and also can be used for enjoyment, like for instance, the immersive experiences in AR. People also like the design aesthetics of some of those electronics. The wearables also have some hedonic and utilitarian value. More and more people are familiar with the technology because of the widespread use of fitness trackers, for instance, and some people would even use this for social image. So there, we discuss this in more detail in the book chapter, but very seldom actually, when we analyze the different research projects and articles about using wearables for learning, we came across the driver that is related somehow to social impact and social innovation. And I think this is really something that has not been on the agenda of many projects and could be enhanced in the future. That's why I thought it would be a nice topic for the workshop today, to think about how wearables can be used to enhance learning, to reach social impact, to reach some kind of social innovation. When you start reading about social impact and social innovation, again, it's just the field on its own. There's much research and many theories, many different definitions. So just, as a working definition for us today, we could say social impact is a significant positive change that addresses some kind of pressing social challenge. And many authors nowadays agree. They don't say technological innovation is social innovation, but more and more people agree that technological innovations can be used or can contribute to social innovations if they are designed with a social impact in mind. And I found a nice example for us to start thinking about it. It's actually from the US, from Florida. And it's an example. It's not about using wearables, but it's just about the social impact. What can actually be social impact? So in this case, people designed a solution for homeless people in Tampa in Florida, about how to how to repair old bicycles, how to also regenerate or recycle old pieces and build new bicycles, and how to sell them for a cheaper price. So basically, they created some earning opportunities for homeless people. And this is a nice, except that it even has a well in the title, as we do for the wearable enhanced learning, well-built bikes. A nice example of social innovation where you really change or help people that have a pressing need to change something in their life. And I was thinking that even this example, like building bikes, could be supported by wearables. If you, for instance, gave homeless people a smartwatch, for instance, and they could see on the smartwatch, okay, maybe that's not very realistic that this would really help, but it could be that they could get some instruction or some videos how to repair those bikes, so they would not need to maybe attend some workshops or face-to-face events where they learn about it, but they could actually get this instruction just where they are without the need to go somewhere. So anyways, this is just to start thinking about the social innovation. And the challenge that I thought about we could engage in today would be to brainstorm ideas for where, in which cases, what are the pressing needs, what are the pressing problems that we could not maybe fully, but at least partially address by using wearables to support learners in different social cultural contexts, diverse learners, diversity of learners in different contexts. So let's see if the number of participants changed. No, we're still the same. So to do this, I designed a canvas in Miro. And I thought it would be a nice opportunity. For instance, I don't know, Alyssa, Carla, if you wanted, if you had time and you wanted to do this together, we could make maybe the session a little bit shorter. And if you have an idea, you could brainstorm on this, or we could do this together and see if we come up with an idea to create a solution, some kind of innovative learning experience scenario, but really with a social impact, social innovation in mind. So that's what I was planning on, and I am really open to your ideas. We can also even discuss things. We don't need to follow this. I just wanted to stop sharing my screen.
We are going to get one more participant, so this is
okay.
good.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much she can participate though. She's a young child, so.
So what I can do is share the link to the Miro board. Copy link. I'm going to put the link in the chat. I created this canvas using another canvas from an NGO that uses a similar canvas to create, to work on, brainstorm on different projects for social impact outside of the context of wearables. So it's just adjusted. So let me know what you think. If you have an idea we could work on, maybe you have, I don't know, something, an idea or a problem that's, or yeah, something you think would be worth on discussing, working on. So basically in this canvas, you would start with a social impact, not special, but the social impact. Sorry, there's a spelling mistake. And from there, you would then describe the problem, the values that are guiding the design, the learning design or the learning experience design, the solution and the wearable technologies. And then the outer fields are even extending this view, like which stakeholders would be involved to provide the solution, which outcomes would we be trying to achieve, because it's always tricky actually to assess and to measure social impact. So again, down we have social impact measures and the different strategies that could be employed for this solution. And there is an example, but it's just an example that will need to be deleted. So I guess it really makes sense to do an activity like this because there are not too many participants if somebody has an idea that could be worked on.
Hi, this is Carla. How are you?
Hi, Carla.
I wasn't sure if you wanted us to come off mute or how you wanted to do it. So I hope it's okay that I did.
Yes. So David, I don't know how you would like to do it, but I'm happy we're such a small group. Everybody could.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It's up to you, but no, I agree. I think that's great to have everybody talk, especially with a group this size, and it's just a different structure. So yeah, everybody can feel free to unmute and be on or off camera, whatever you want. All the regular conference rules are removed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
No rules.
There are no rules. We're completely opening up the conference sessions now.
No rules till we need rules, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of a social impact problem, and I guess I'm just not in that mindset yet. So I'm trying to go from listening mode to active mode. So I apologize. And I don't know. Oh, it looks like somebody left. Okay, so I'm going to make this all about me then, since we're here and there's not too many
perfect.
people. That's okay.
User-centered.
So I work for the Department of Defense and do training based on acquisitions, which is buying things for the Department of Defense or putting contracts in place and things like that. So I'm trying to think of something, and it may not be a social impact, but it may be a social impact within my context. And it may be as simple as I'm at a university, it's the Defense Acquisition University. And so we had started a project just before the pandemic hit using virtual reality goggles. And I was part of that pilot. And what it was a pilot to enhance our faculty presentation skills, where they would use the goggles to practice doing their instruction on their own, but get feedback somehow. And since it never went beyond the first stages of that, I don't know how it would have gone. But I'm wondering if there's something we could do without goggles, because those were extremely, first of all, they made you really sick if you have some sort of seasickness, they really made you dizzy and feel sick. Is there some sort of wearable that would benefit a university instructor in that kind of setting, or the students when it comes to working with acquisitions in the Department of Defense?
That's a nice application scenario. I remember it because every year we have a workshop from the special interest group on wearable enhanced learning, and one year there was a participant who designed his own set with wearables to support learners in learning how to present in front of an audience. And what he used was gesture recognition. So I think he used some bracelets. There were no head mounts. It was no virtual reality. There were just different sensors put on the wrist. So you could see the gestures, how the person actually uses for instance, the body language. There was some kind of information. I don't remember if it was displayed on a smartwatch or probably on a smartwatch. I even think he had something on the feet, because it was more about the body language that he used. Yeah, so we could think about something like this, maybe even something for speech recognition that you wear and recognize.
Yeah, when you say too many times, or a lot of times when you're, especially if you're a new instructor or you're new at presenting, you have a tendency to not allow yourself to breathe. And so you could do something that would monitor your breathing, so you slow down and take a breath, and it somehow gives you like a buzz or something on your wrist to remind you, hey, you're losing control of your body. You're not managing everything. Because, I've seen a lot of people when they present, especially young presenters or new presenters, that they just their voice starts quivering because they're not breathing, and it's very challenging. And then eye movement sometimes is a little odd, or they tend to pace in one little box, and it gets to be like there's a hole in the floor almost because they're not using their stage, if you will. So I don't know. I know it's not a social impact, but I'm just trying to think of something we could use as a starting point for doing the Miro board.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And it could help people who really have stage fright and experience some stress.
Yes.
And
especially those who don't want to practice in front of other people, because it's almost worse practicing in front of colleagues because you know them than it is in front of strangers. So I don't know, it could even work for high schoolers and college students who are in oral communications kind of courses. I mean, it has a lot of, I think, applicability.
Yes.
So,
people with some anxieties, for instance.
Yes. Or who didn't have anxiety until they had to speak in front of people.
Yeah.
And then there's a new twist to that, right? Because now we're all virtual, and some people who are very comfortable in the classroom or in person are now extremely uncomfortable virtually. And so there could be some sort of special focus on a virtual instruction versus, live, because they are very different.
That's true.
So I don't know. Just a thought.
That's interesting. I mean, can we read sort of some of the body signals too, and read like, heartbeat and, other things that, when you mention anxiety, that there are things that might be like, can we see triggers coming before a person would know that they kind of were edging toward being less comfortable? That makes sense.
Like before it physically completely manifests for all to see.
Right.
Yeah,
I guess
so.
Before the other people, I guess they may know, but at some level, but before at least the people watching them know. And then the second question is, what do you do about it? But at least the awareness is the first, is the first step.
Right. So I'm not sure what I would put for the social impact, but I think the problem is really just working with, let's say, new instructors or new presenters, not necessarily new, but instructors or presenters who have the anxiety of speaking in front of others, right?
That sounds good.
And I guess the social impact, although it's not super social, is really just an improved experience for the learner, because it'll be more frictionless when their presenter is calmer and smoother and easier to track. Whereas if they're super anxious, you tend to stop focusing on the words and learning, and you start watching their body language and the things that are standing out that aren't quite right. So we would hope it would be a better experience.
That's true. I've even thought about people communicating in a foreign language, for instance. For instance, in Germany, a lot of times very stressful situation to communicate in English. In work situations and in professional situations in everyday life, and vice versa could be also.
Yeah, I love that too, because, even in this conference, you can see how it can be very challenging sometimes, because the language is very technical. It's not just your everyday conversation. You really have to be able to master the quick thinking in that technical terminology in another language that may not be native to you.
Yeah.
I think that's very cool too.
Yeah, so I think many applications of this. And maybe we could even think about a completely new wearable that is not existent, like this example of this researcher who presented his own system for gesture recognition. It could be something new that could, I don't know, for instance, like a microphone, like a button with a microphone that recognizes your voice and analyzes the different characteristics of your voice and gives you some kind of vibrational feedback if your voice is too shaky or I don't know.
Or the pitch changes. That would be awesome. And you probably could do this for men and women, but it could be as simple as a necklace with a pendant. So not
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
knows, connected to maybe like something like a Fitbit, right? Where that would be where the data would be stored and would vibrate or give you that signal.
That's true.
So you could
This
have
could possibly even measure, like if it was a skin sensor, it could measure, for instance, the sweat level, which could be an indicator of stress.
Oh, yeah,
level
body
again, so-
temperature. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool. Well, aren't we inventing the coolest thing ever?
And new consumer electronic coming up from this conference.
Hey, you never know. I mean, it could be very beneficial. And if you have a necklace, it's close enough to your voice that it would be able to calibrate and hear it very well. The only thing it wouldn't be able to do is look at your body language or your eye contact, whatever you're doing with your eyes or your facial expressions, but there could be some way to do that. And, you know, if you think about, I don't know if you attended the first day's keynote with Alicia Sanchez, but she had brought up the, how cool it is that we have these new fitness mirrors that are a mirror until you want to work out, and then you work out and it's kind of a learning device, right? So you could have a mirror like that goes with this necklace and, you know, wristband that we are working out. And the mirror could be the monitor, you know, that watches your body language, watches your facial expressions, and possibly records it, but you're also able to see it firsthand.
That is cool,
If you're
because it
looking
would
at
really
yourself.
capture your entire body. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if that would be an approach. It's a very expensive approach to speaking, but there are some world leaders who would probably really benefit.
Yeah.
And it does scale, but it also scales up, right? I mean, just to the other
Right.
point, right? So it's expensive if it's one person. Maybe it's eventually not so expensive if, you know, tens of millions of people find use for this, which they might.
No, absolutely. I'm in Virginia, and I had taken my kids to the Science Museum down in Richmond a few years ago, and they have a whole kinesthetic lab area, and they have a mirror-like thing there where they have you do yoga poses and things like that, and the kids can see immediate feedback on what they're doing, their body temperature, their, you know, different things, and it gives them feedback. So it could be something very similar to that, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. And it's
There's another step beyond this, which is probably not where we want to go, right? But the other step beyond this is, can it then do something to sort of help solve some of the problems? Like if your voice is shaky, you know, can it actually moderate your voice so that what the audience hears is less shaky without, you know, totally not being your voice, you know?
Right. Or can it somehow coach you? Can we include some sort of coaching mechanism or?
Right. There's sort of like the immediate results, and then there's the future coaching, right? Like, you know, I got you through this one, but next time, here's what you should work on.
Yeah, and it could almost do like a report for you, I guess. And then once you've done it, and then monitor your progress towards improvement. You know, how much did your voice shake this time versus after 3 practice sessions? Did it get any better using?
Right.
Yeah, it could possibly even show you like alternative, for instance, in terms of body language, if somebody is like it's also all culture dependent, right?
Yes, yeah.
But it could also offer you some coaching for alternatives, maybe for different situations, contexts, different cultures, for instance. Even it could prepare for like, how do you call this? When you go to abroad, to work abroad, and you have to prepare, you do those cultural trainings. To kind of integrate better into the culture.
I know exactly what you mean. I don't know what you would call it, but yeah, I know what you mean. And you know, it could even be used for something like, you could have something interactive where you can't, because with technology like Alexa, for example, you have that ability to have the voice recognition and have responses that are already predefined. And so you can have like an interview, for example, job interview, or even an interview with the press, or, you know, whomever is interviewing you, and that can be simulated that way. And it can also watch your body language and help with your voice. And and things like that. And so you get that back and forth practice.
That's true. This could be even applied, let me take it even further to, for instance, to professions, like, for instance, when you were a counselor or even a medical doctor and you were advising people, your body language is so important, how you bring different messages across. And it's always something that people criticize in, like, medical training. Medical training is very subject matter oriented, but very often doctors are not really acting empathetically enough, for instance. So, like, empathy training could even be.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, even if it's something as simple as doing annual reviews for your employees, if you're not very empathetic and you come off too authoritarian, or maybe you want to, I don't know, but you could practice those kind of reviews or certain difficult discussions you might have with employees. Yeah, you could do a lot of cool things with that. And the physical is so important, and the verbal, but it's not just the words, it's what it sounds like. And so if you're nervous about it, your employee is going to know you're nervous to approach them with that difficult conversation. So that could be really cool too. I like that. This is so much fun. I love ideas.
This is really fun. But also, this is really fun. It does also seem to me that there's still more we can do that's just in time. I'm not sure how it all feel good, right? There's the training part, and then there's the, okay, what if you're in an actual interaction and you're starting to, talk in the wrong tone or something? Do you want something that kind of, gently, in a way that no one else knows, lets you know that, you're getting a little bit you're sounding too angry, you're talking too quickly, your tone doesn't sound empathetic. I don't know. That would be an adjustment to be in the middle of a conversation and getting some kind of instantaneous feedback, but it might be something that some people at least would appreciate and would adjust to.
David, I love that, because I have a 15-year-old girl, and I would love to have like a little shock bracelet for when the tone changes, and could shock her a little bit to say, oh, wait, maybe I'm getting a little too teenagery in my tone.
Okay, but for the record, the shocking part was your idea. That was not something I said.
I mean, a gentle vibration.
Have that on the record if you don't mind. But yeah.
But no, I mean, you see, it can span from just personal use to beyond that, to a real true. I mean, when you look at, like with me with Department of Defense, you may have some leadership training that could be beneficial, that, if you're not a strong enough leader, then, you would need some feedback in how you're communicating with those who are your subordinates. And if they're not believing in you, you're going to lose a lot of trust and ability to perform as a team, and that could be not just in the military, but in all facets of business.
Yeah.
So there could be a lot of different applications, especially when it comes to the emotion in your voice, and the speed or lack thereof of your tone or your intonation. And like you had mentioned earlier with foreign languages, if you're trying very hard to have the right intonation and I guess the right point of emphasis in another language, you may not have it right, because it's not, it doesn't always translate the same. And so you could easily use this as a practice module, especially for somebody who's a professional, to help make your speech, the way you're translating into another language, even more exact.
That's true. So many applications for this. So I don't know if the other persons that joined us, because I think people just came by and by, if you have some spontaneous ideas. So we said there are no rules, everybody can unmute themselves and join in the discussion. And we have a very nice idea that Carla just described about a wearable, like a necklace that you would wear, and a smart mirror that would mirror your body movement, your body language, that could be used for communication training in different contexts, like in corporate context and for private persons, even in parenting.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah, you never know, exactly. So I don't know. We have Sergio and Paris who joined us, and we're basically discussing ideas where wearables could be used to support learning for social impact. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about this idea or have some other ideas that we could discuss. Maybe you have some completely other things on your mind, something you're trying to develop a solution for that we could brainstorm together where wearables could support the learning process.
So, we could also develop an app, kind of like Fitbit has, where it continues to gather the data from your daily, not just those specific interactions, but your daily interactions overall, and analyzes it and gives you that feedback, how much time did you spend talking versus listening? Let's see, what else? Different ways your voice changes throughout the day, and whether it senses different emotions like anger or excitement or sadness. Those, I don't know how applicable that would be, but it would be interesting baseline data to gather to see what could be derived from that, possibly.
That's right. It would also require some machine learning, artificial intelligence applications to analyze all this data. And
so for example, if you're a habitual, how do I say this? If you use a lot of swear words, profanity, and there are a lot of people in the world who do, and they really struggle to remove that from their language, especially in business. This would be a really cool thing where if you wear it all day and it has that taxonomy in there to recognize some of those profanities as you, throw them out. One, it could, buzz you on a little wrist band or something, but it could also track your use of those profanities throughout the day and really start giving you the true impact of how you're communicating to help you improve your, remove that from your general communication, because there are so many people who do that and don't realize that they're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know I just took it a whole sideways way.
Yeah, we took it like everywhere, but it's interesting. I think Sergio, did you want to join in the discussion? Your microphone got unmuted. No. Okay, just trying to include Sergio and Paris in the discussion. I hope you can hear us. Okay. Yeah, so we could, if you want, we could continue working on one of those ideas. So it's like maybe on one of the application scenarios and like think through, or we could,
whatever you want to do. I'm open to it. I think it's a lot of fun just having ideas without
just brainstorming. Yeah, exactly.
No
That's why it would be
borders.
interesting to learn from Sergio and Paris. Sergio and Paris, maybe if you could just say where you work or what your interest is, and we could start the discussion from there. Okay.
All right, we can move on to other ideas, I guess. That's all right. We can we can keep thinking of other ideas.
David, how about you?
I know you put me on the spot and come up with more ideas. Huh? All right, let me think. Yeah, let me get back into the social impact idea was interesting too. I'm just trying to think about, if we move away from presentation, what we can do with wearables that would impact, society. I know. I mean, one thing, there was the example of the homeless people building the bikes that you showed before. One thing that would help in New York, it would be short term. Like short term, we need to help the homeless in a much more substantial way. I know one thing that's happening to people on the street now is that nobody carries cash, and they don't really have a way to even get, small donations to help them get through the night sometimes, because people would, who would give them $1 don't have $1 because people, paying electronically. So I don't know if there's, and people are reluctant, even if they have, like, the guy I know who's around my neighborhood, it's like, he's pretty technologically savvy. Like, he lives on those streets, but he's very technologically savvy. It's like, he would actually probably get, like, the Square, credit card thing, but nobody's going to do that. So I don't know if there's sort of an anonymous way to be able to, like, it might actually step beyond donating to homeless and be sort of an anonymous way to pass money to friends and all those kinds of things too, I suppose. But it was coming up as a way where, like, you feel like you walk by some people that, are legitimately stuck and are legitimately out there and you want to help, but, like, I'm walking around with a credit card and a cell phone in my pocket, and I, unless I've really planned to bring money, I don't carry cash ever. And I think that's true of most people. And I know that's been a struggle for the couple people in my neighborhood that I, that I know, and, people, I can make an effort occasionally and go out and make a specific effort and say, okay, wait, I'm going to find some cash and go there. But if in the normal context of life, you don't anymore. So I don't know, maybe there's something in there that would, clearly be anonymous and be a way that people could sort of help somebody out on a short-term basis.
I never realized that issue before, David. That's interesting and very true. It just, it's one of those things you don't realize has evolved.
Yeah, it's probably right. I mean, because you still see people like, when a quarter or $1, I mean, you really just don't have,
I don't carry cash.
Right. I mean, I really.
And I'm not giving my credit card out. So
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, you wouldn't want to stop so long to swipe it. You wouldn't feel comfortable necessarily if it's a stranger, like, a couple guys in the neighborhood, sure, but you wouldn't feel comfortable with swiping your card for a stranger anyway. And it's much more time consuming, right? Like, you wouldn't, you can't just hand someone $1 as you walk by, you're going somewhere or whatever. And some people are reluctant to stop and talk or don't have time. So it's tricky. Like, I've seen street performers doing Venmo, but that takes a lot of effort there too. Like, somebody's really got to, and then people are captivated by the performance for longer. But even then, it's like, I don't think they're doing that well with that, right? Like, you'll see, here, Venmo me here, and it's like, oh, I don't know if you have Venmo in Germany, but a good way to pass, to give money to people.
It's not anonymous though, right? So you don't always want your name on it.
Right, that's right. I don't think it's safely anonymous at the very least. It probably isn't anonymous at all. Yeah, no, the anonymity, I think, is a big part. Speed and anonymity seem to be the two key features, right, that we would need. And sort of speed in two ways: speed of understanding how to do it, right? That's the other thing too, is, like, I think there are people who would, with the street performers, be okay with their name, but, like, it's kind of a lot of effort. Do they, they even have Venmo? Do they know what it is? Then they have to go log on. They have to go find this person. Even if you have it, you have to go find the person. Then you've got to go, click the right button, and then you've got to go pay. And it's like, it's a lot of steps, right? And when you're asking for a donation of any kind, having a lot of steps and making it hard is not ideal.
That's true.
So what would the solution look like? When you were talking about this, I just imagined there would be some kind of implant, maybe like in the skin, and every person would have this. And if you were passing by, even if you could get some kind of notification on your phone, do you want to donate some money for this person? But there would be then the whole system, like, behind it, where homeless people could cash in what they received electronically somewhere.
That's true. But that's a really good idea. Yeah, where if you get a notification just by walking by, that's pretty cool.
Right. That is, that's a good question. Yeah, do they? I mean, is it some sort of wristband? I assume no. I mean, nobody probably really wants to have anything implanted in this case. We have enough people, thinking the vaccine's doing that. I don't know. That's going to be widely accepted.
Interesting.
And it would feel, and if it was only the people who were, in need, that would feel even worse, I think.
But the workaround could be the implant in the dog. Every dog has a chip, and many homeless people actually have dogs. So the dog could collect the money.
There you go.
Oh my
if the dogs decide, then they're just going to give it all away, right? The dogs are always looking to help people. So,
oh gosh, this would lead to some new criminal cases, people stealing dogs, the dogs that.
I know, that's true.
know where this is leading. No, I mean, if you have, so let's say you have a wristband, you're the person who's going to be able to collect, and you have a wristband that is sophisticated enough that it does, yeah, if someone has messaging, anonymous messaging allowed on their phones, it would vibrate and say, there's somebody at the corner of Park and 21st Street that's, if you want to, donate to that person, enter an amount now, and it'll be anonymous. Maybe there's something to that. So maybe you do the action on your phone, but it's the wristband on the part of the person who's the recipient that handles the notification and the acceptance.
Yeah, and you could actually have an app that you personally subscribe to so that people aren't randomly being,
exactly.
messaged.
I think you'd have to. Yeah, exactly. I think you'd have to. Like, you can't message everybody other than like an emergency, right? Like, we can't. Yeah, I mean, that would be okay.
But yeah, you could definitely sign up for, some sort of help the homeless app or something like that, and you don't even have to walk by them in order to donate. You could just have it set up on a regular donation schedule, or maybe they're going to be at the subway at 2:00 on Wednesdays. They always go to the same place, whatever, and you can go by and see them, hear them perform if they're performing something, because a lot of times you see that. There could be different ways to implement that, which would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And then the messaging could just be part of it, because there is, I think, some just in time, you do see somebody in need, and you kind of, think about it differently when you see it. And so if you get that, if you have that app and allow it to pop up messages to you, that seems like a nice add-on to the other ways that you're mentioning.
But now, so there's two things that I could see being a downside, not to bring in the downside, but there is the whole, personal privacy issues, and I could see lawsuits coming from that, because they feel that, they should have their privacy. Even if they're homeless, they still shouldn't have to have their privacy invaded by being announced as homeless. And the other is, there's a lot of people who are very paranoid's not the right word, but maybe it is, about the government and technology and being tracked. And so they would not probably want to participate. And so how then do you work with that population? Because, you have to be sensitive to some of their personal issues. But I do think it's a great idea. I think it's cool. And I never even considered the fact that we don't carry cash anymore and how that affects them.
Yeah, that's also really something completely new, although it's not related to learning, but we could still brainstorm how this could be somehow put into an
it is not a learning activity.
Kind of learning
it is right. It is a societal it is societal impact. It is not a learning. That's true.
Yeah. What could homeless people learn from this? No, it's just another way. Yeah. I
think it's more what we could learn from this, but yeah.
Everybody
who's not homeless could learn from this.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, we have really interesting ideas. Let's see if Paris decides to join us now with a third interesting idea. If not.
No, let's see. Yeah, what else? So that's a good. So the next one here, right? What's a wearable based learning experience that could have societal impact? Interesting one. It would really be a learning experience. Yeah, we kind of got into some that were more physical, right? Like, you have the example of people, working out, and Carly's example with presentations.
Yeah, exactly. Where the embodied kind of aspect, is important.
Right.
Or some kind of vital.
So I think there's always something to deal with, like the, if we talk about things like the pandemic and vaccines and that whole thing, or safety with regard to, social distancing. Social distancing could be something, it always says stand 6 feet apart. But do people even know what 6 feet is? And I don't think they always do, which is why they put the little foot stickers in the store and tell you stand here, because people really don't know what 6 feet looks like. I mean, some do, obviously, but some don't. And so is there a way that you could have something that really does kind of alert you, hey, you're too close to this person, or you're in an area where you should put your mask on, something like that, that could affect society as a whole, because it may be an area of the city or the country where there are high numbers of COVID, and you want to be more protected, even if you got the vaccine, but you just don't know that area is a denser, higher populated area with the infection. And that could be not just COVID, but, other things too, when the flu hits and things like that.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I would
Actually,
wanna know.
yeah, no, totally. In fact, at some point during the pandemic, I had some idea about trying to figure out if there was a way to better measure air quality, right? Kind of, so that's really
Right.
along those lines, right? Like, I want to know, like, I know what's hard, but is there a way that you can start to know like what the air is like around you? We know we need ventilation, and we know that outside is obviously better, and so on and so forth. But can you better measure the immediate air around you for exactly that reason?
Exactly. So yeah, I think from a societal impact, that could be something that you could get alerts. You could have some sort of sensor that you have on you that would help you measure air quality, or even the density of the air around you. Maybe when it's really humid outside and the air is just not moving, you need to be more cautious. I don't know. But, these things go through your mind, and you wonder, is it safe? Is it not safe? Am I being overly cautious or not? And, you want to do the best that you can to prevent additional spreading of this and any other virus. So
yes, I really like this idea, because the proximity sensors is something that could be used to notify if the distance, for instance, is kept, and some other sensors could even tell you about your own biological data, like, for instance, increased temperature, where you then would be asked to take responsibility and maybe back up from any interaction. And I even always wonder why we're not using this, because everybody could actually have some kind of gadget to monitor their own biological data exactly now in the times of pandemics, just to know when your temperature increases could be so easy.
Yeah, or even, respiratory, if there is, because you may not know right away, but you may have respiratory symptoms that you don't recognize because they come on slowly, but a device might detect it before you do. And that really, you're right. Yeah, I think that would be so cool. So I think there's a lot that could be done that's simple, and a lot of the technology already exists. For example, I have an iPhone, and on my iPhone, I could sign up to be alerted about the current COVID data in my immediate area. And if I went somewhere else, it would send me an alert about that. So, I think there is technology and there is data there to help support some kind of solution like this. And it can only get further enhanced. And I think people are more willing than ever before to contribute to that data, just because of this whole pandemic and its ridiculously large effect on the world.
Yeah.
So it could be a very interesting project.
I think so too. And also,
impact. Yeah,
exactly. And also in countries where social distancing is really difficult, because people kept very short distance, like in Asian countries, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Like in India, for instance, with so many casualties now because of Corona. Yeah. It would really help to learn to keep the safe distance, because I think this might be even harder. Yeah.
And I think one of the things you would have to program into that would have to be, for example, your immediate family members. You would have to have some way to recognize that the people you are around are safe, because they're part of your standard circle of people, so that you're not always being alerted of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that could be a really interesting thing to put out there and see how people accept it. I know I would wear one that would monitor my own biometrics, because I would want to know, am I getting sick? I don't want to, the last thing I would want to do is potentially infect somebody else before I realize that I've been infecting them. So
Carla, you are the only one who can take this forward. You are in the Ministry of Defense.
There you go.
Right.
The Department of
hold all
Germ
the power.
Defense. The sub-department.
I know, right? Hey, you know what? Sometimes all you have to do is blog about it to give somebody with the power the idea to do it.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
something to that. I'm not even sure that doesn't fall under defense these days. So, I mean, there's something to that, I think.
I know, right? Who knows anymore?
Exactly.
It would be really cool, though. I'll be honest, if they had like a pilot study, I would sign up for that. Just because
Yeah,
I
that
think
would
it
be really cool to see. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
just
true.
the data alone would be interesting to see it collected.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Hey
there you
guys,
go.
I have to tell you something. I told my students that I will be with them at 5:10 my time, which is like in 3 minutes. Would it be very dramatic if we finished 10 past instead
Not
of
at all.
4? Okay.
I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, we've solved all the world's problems. I don't know what else is left to talk
Exactly. There's nothing else to do.
We had fun, if nothing else, right? It was a really good time.
That's it.
about. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
How
No,
often does one get one-on-one time with you, right?
Yes. Thank you,
For me.
Carla. It was great.
Yeah, no, I had a
Great
blast.
talking
This
to
was
you.
really fun. It was one of the highlights of my week so far.
Hey, super.
Fantastic. I had a lot of fun as well. No, it was great. This was great. So this was really enjoyable. So we can let you go, and then let's see everybody else back at it's a different link for the next part of the session. It's just back to a webinar format. So, but
And which session is next?
what session next is Gila Kurtz talking about
Yeah.
remote learning and training in Israel and the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh,
So
say hi
yeah.
to Gila in the chat. I cannot attend because I have students just joining the other room already.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, we can.
Thank you
we
so
will-
much.
Thank you,
Thanks
Carla.
once again.
All right,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
David.
Of course.
Have a
Take
good
care. Good
day.
to talk to
Bye-bye.
you. You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye.